The Bible tells us that the Almighty and loving God created and rules over all things. But if we cannot see Him, how can we know if this God actually exists? The truth is, no one can empirically prove God's existence. This inability is due to the limitations of human capacity. A finite human being cannot reproduce the infinite God in a laboratory or observe Him through a physical instrument. But believing God is not blind faith. God makes Himself accessible to us in many ways, and it is possible for us to know that He is real. First, we can know that God exists from the existence of the universe and living organisms, including human beings. For every house is built by someone, but the builder of all things is God. Hebrews chapter 3 verse 4. If you're in the middle of a jungle and come upon a beautiful mansion, even though you don't know who built the mansion, you automatically assume that someone had built it. It would be absurd to even think that the mansion could have erected itself. By the same token, when we see the myriads of carefully crafted things in this universe, we know that there is a master builder. Scientists have shown that the universe as we know it, including space, time, matter, and energy, had a beginning. By means of a vast amount of energy, the universe continued to expand. This is often known as the Big Bang. The fact that the universe had a beginning is a strong indication that there is a creator who brought everything into existence, because all finite things have a cause. They don't appear out of nothing. The Big Bang was not a random explosion. In this immense cosmos, which scientists estimate to be 92 billion light years in diameter, things have been carefully fine-tuned to sustain life on planet Earth. Many constants of nature had to come together in perfect precision for physical life to be possible. For example, if the strength of gravity were a fraction of a percent stronger or weaker, there wouldn't have been stars and planets. This was certainly not a coincidence. On the molecular level, scientists have discovered that very complex mechanisms are at work in a single cell. Highly specified information has been coded into the DNA to dictate how the protein performs certain functions within the cell. This information is like the signature of a highly intelligent designer. Such phenomena just cannot be explained by blind chance. So it takes far greater faith to believe that everything we see, including human beings, are the product of pure coincidence, than to believe that there is an infinite God who created all things. For what can be known about God is plain to them, because God has shown it to them. For His invisible attributes, namely His eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world in the things that have been made, so they are without excuse. Romans chapter 1 verses 19 to 20. The creation is the best testimony to the power, wisdom, and love of God. Man has also been given the capacity to know God the Creator. To reject God is to suppress the truth that has been clearly displayed before us. All human beings have an inward sense of right and wrong. When reading a novel or watching a movie, we all want good to triumph over evil. Whenever we make a judgment about whether a behavior is good or bad, we appeal to a universal higher moral standard. If all moral decisions are relative, then there will be no such thing as good or evil. For when Gentiles who do not have the law by nature do what the law requires, they are a law to themselves, even though they do not have the law. They show that the work of the law is written on their hearts, while their conscience also bears witness, and their conflicting thoughts accuse or even excuse them. Romans chapter 2 verses 14 and 15. The Bible explains that even those who have not learned the written law of the Holy Scriptures have the law written on their hearts. God has given this natural ability to man. The conscience within each one of us testifies to this inward law as well as to God the lawgiver. One thing that sets human beings apart from all other living organisms is human beings' innate desire to seek God and find meaning in life. Whereas you would never find a group of monkeys gathering to pray or worship, Religion has thrived throughout human history and in every corner of the world, even in the most primitive societies. We know that without God, our existence would have absolutely no meaning. We would merely be walking molecules in a cosmic accident. All such values as love, wisdom, and dignity would be an illusion. What instilled in us this inward urge to reach beyond ourselves to search for a higher purpose? And he made from one man every nation of mankind to live on all the face of the earth, having determined allotted periods and the boundaries of their dwelling place, that they should seek God and perhaps feel their way toward Him and find Him. Yet He is actually not far from each one of us. Acts chapter 17, verses 26 to 27. According to the Bible, God created the entire human race and He governs the life of each individual in such a way that man is born with the urge to seek Him. Such a spiritual need within us is a powerful testimony of the existence of God the Creator. The Bible teaches that God not only made all things, He is also personally involved in His creation. He acts in history and in the lives of people to accomplish His purpose. Such divine interventions are called signs or miracles. Many people have cried out to God for help or followed the teachings of the Bible and experienced miraculous outcomes that couldn't be explained by mere coincidence. Problems were solved, sicknesses were healed, hearts were changed, and even the dead were restored to life. Many believers in the true Jesus Church would be able to share such personal testimonies. Perhaps the surest evidence for God is when you personally experience God. One way is to pray to God for the promised Holy Spirit. Being therefore exalted to the right hand of God and having received from the Father the promise of the Holy Spirit, He has poured out this that you yourselves are seeing and hearing. Acts chapter 2 verse 33. Receiving the Holy Spirit is an extraordinary experience that can be seen and heard outwardly. When God pours out His Holy Spirit on a person, the person is given the ability to communicate with God in a miraculous way. He is led by God's Spirit to speak in a supernatural language with his tongue. It's not a language that is learned or taught, but is given to us when we receive the Holy Spirit. This is one of the most direct ways to experience God. Jesus promises that those who believe in Him and ask Him will receive the Holy Spirit. Throughout the True Jesus Church worldwide, we can observe this miraculous experience. You too can ask God to come into your heart and let you experience Him. When you give God a chance to work in your life, you will begin to personally touch this true and living God.